Welcome to the Couch Scouts Podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the Couch Scouts Podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper. With me is my co-host, Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
I am doing good. Glad to be back. Jackson is out this week. He's got a lot going on at his work. So here we are and holding down the fort. I'm excited to be back. I've missed a couple weeks. Glad to be back. And we are doing a fun show tonight on boom bust candidates heading into the 2026 season. But first, before we get into the show, I just got to say, I'm really grateful. I'm not gonna preach or anything, but God has really provided for me in some cool ways today. I'm not gonna get into any details, but shout out God, because I'm really grateful. He's been really, really kind to me today. So,
other than going on the IR list for Achilles injury,
well, it is the time for training camp injuries, and I almost had one, but it could have been a lot worse. This morning, I was hooping, playing some 6:30 in the morning basketball, and I couldn't have been there for more than half hour before I jumped up for a rebound and landed totally fine, thought I was fine, and then started to try to run up the court, and I could not push off my right foot at all without this intense heel pain. And I was like, oh no, did I just tear an Achilles? And not a tear, it's intact. So just a couple weeks of rest and doing some rehab exercises, and I should be back there playing basketball again. So, but I was scared there for a minute.
It's good, a short-term IR.
That's right.
I'm currently on ice on my lower back, if that tells you anything. We're both getting there up there in age, so we can't criticize, Jordan Tyson for, injuring his hammy again.
Couple guys in their 30s, we get hurt just by rolling out of bed in the morning. But
no big deal.
Like they said with Breece Hall, weeks, not months, right? So,
Yes.
all right, let's get into the show tonight. So we are going to be discussing some guys who we think have some of the most volatile profiles in fantasy this year. These are guys who could either be a part of a championship roster if the chips fall right, or they could see most, if not all, of their value completely slip away if things don't break right for them. So we are going to be getting into, we're going to each share 3 guys that we think fit into that category. And we're talking dynasty value, but we're also, this is something that I think what a lot of dynasty players underrate is how much short-term production swings dynasty value. Like, for as much as everybody talks a big game about thinking long-term, like, we as a community are extremely reactionary. And even on some of these young guys, value can swing really fast. So this should make for a really interesting discussion. And as we get started here, why don't you share for us the first player you identified as a boom bust candidate in 2026?
Yeah, I went with Kyler Murray at the quarterback position. I've talked about it all off season, and last couple of years, I'm a big believer in Kevin O'Connell, his system, and just how quarterback friendly it is. And it seems like almost everyone except for J.J. McCarthy thrives in his system and has career years. Every year that Kyler Murray's been healthy and played all the games, he's been a top 10 quarterback. And sometimes he's been a top 3 quarterback for fantasy purposes. This year he has the Kevin O'Connell factor. Now, we've seen him decline in his playing ability in the last couple of years. Does that continue? That's where his value could completely tank. But he could also have a career year with O'Connell having Justin Jefferson to throw the ball to, being able to take advantage of his skill set, unlike J.J. McCarthy, and a really solid number 2 with Jordan Addison. So it's probably the best supporting cast he's had since his early days in Arizona, where he had prime DeAndre Hopkins to throw the ball down the field to. So I think this is a guy that could really end up finishing as a potential top 7, top 5 quarterback this year for fantasy purposes and help you win, championship this year. Or he could be a guy that just continues down the decline and end up pretty much tanking all of his dynasty value.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got a guy, Juwan Jennings, that a lot of people think really highly of. I've never been huge on him as like a fantasy wide receiver, but he's a very good wide receiver 3 for an NFL team. And then, whatever's left of TJ Hawkinson, I don't know. He might be totally cooked.
Can I just say that still makes me very sad?
Yeah.
I love some TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, he might be cooked, but maybe. I mean, he's still not old, and he's coming in, what is it, his second year off of that big injury, so maybe. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, so I'm not necessarily counting on Hawkinson from a fantasy perspective, but he could help Kyler Murray out. So, yeah, there's a lot of upside there, and like you mentioned, a lot of downside. So I like that call out as a boom-bust candidate. Like, you're talking about a guy who essentially got benched for Jacoby Brissett last year. So there is risk involved, but there's upside too. So exactly the kind of guy we wanted to highlight on this show. For me, I am going to call out Jonathan Brooks from our hometown Carolina Panthers, a guy who we absolutely loved his tape coming out of Texas. I mean, he was our number 1 running back in that class. We had a firm first round rookie grade on him, and he's had a tough run of luck with the injury. Obviously, he already had a pre-existing ACL injury when he was drafted, and then basically immediately upon getting on the field as a rookie, he re-injured it. And now he's finally going to get a shot. And as of this recording, Chuba Hubbard is injured. So he got hurt. Jonathan Brooks just started a preseason game as the lead back because Chuba was out and the starters were playing in the preseason game. So this could be exactly the break that you need as a Jonathan Brooks fan, as a Jonathan Brooks dynasty owner. It's like, okay, we thought he was good. He's healthy, but Chuba's still there. It's going to be a committee. Is he going to get enough touches to be what we want him to be for fantasy? If Chuba misses significant time, there is a real world where Jonathan Brooks takes that job, never gives it back, looks as good as we thought he was at Texas, and goes from a dead dynasty asset to a young stud on your fantasy roster. That is inside the realm of possibilities. There's also the other possibility, which is that right now is his sell high window because maybe he never gets that explosiveness back that we loved on his Texas tape. And maybe he looks average at best during his stint as a starter, and maybe Chuba comes back in and takes over the lead back job, and Brooks is kind of the 1B or the number 2 even in a low scoring offense. So the downside is there where people could, if they hold right now and they're excited and they're buying it and they're into the hype, or maybe not even that you hold, maybe you go out and buy him in a dynasty trade right now. Overpay today could be an underpay tomorrow, right? And that, of course, could be the case because the upside is there. The boom possibility is there, but there could also be a time where you're like, man, looking back, that was a sell window and I should have taken it. That, the downside is there too. So I like Brooks, but it's just so up in the air with Chuba's presence there and just not knowing what he's going to look like coming off injury. And even our offensive line for the Panthers has some question marks too. So yeah, there's a lot of upside. There's a lot of ways it could go wrong.
Yeah, great call out. I feel like we talked about Jonathan Brooks this past month a ton. It's been the month of Jonathan Brooks on the CouchScouts show. But there's a reason. Exactly what you said. He could easily, by halfway through the season, be one of the stud future dynasty assets on your roster that's going to carry your team for the next few years. from what I've seen, like just from like training clips and everything like that, like I see that explosiveness and everything that we love coming out. So I think really the only thing I can hold him back is more injuries, which we pray is not the case.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, regardless of how you feel about him as a dynasty asset, you never want to see a young guy's career derailed by injuries the way that his has been so far. So we hope for better luck for him moving forward. So who's your second boom bust candidate here for this season?
Switching it up and going wide receiver with AJ Brown. He had a down year last year, finishing as wide receiver 11 in PPR formats. Now he's traded to New England Patriots, where he gets a chance to play with Drake May, probably easily the best quarterback he's played with in his career. Stephon Diggs at 32 put up 1,000 yards with May last year. And I feel like people are just a little more sour on him. Like, I don't think he's getting that hype to be a guy that can finish as a wide receiver 1 this year. It just, I just feel like things have been really quiet with him. But I think he's a guy that could easily finish, top 7 this year and, put up one of those 1,300 yard double-digit touchdown kind of years. He's still 29, like he's not, 32 like Diggs was at the tail end of his career. So I think you can have another year or two of like really high-end productivity from Brown. So he's a perfect guy that you can slot in on your contending roster and compete for the next 2 years. On the flip side, maybe we did see him start to slow down last year. Maybe this too much diva stuff really starts to affect things. He doesn't get the amount of targets that he wants this year, and things start to go off the rails. And then now he's turning 30. Like, his dynasty values could really go in the tank if things turn sour this year.
Yeah, I mean, as with any older player, it doesn't take much for their value to, there's not a lot of insulation there. So I mentioned earlier in the show that dynasty players can be reactionary. That's especially true the older the player is. So I like that call out there. If you had to make a pick, and I think I know which way you're going to lean on this based on what you just said, are you predicting the boom or are you predicting the bust?
I'm predicting the boom.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I was getting there. So, all right, I like that call out. Before I share my second, I'm going to take a quick break here and let our listeners know about the awesome resources available to them. If they go to CouchScouts.com, we have an all-22 film room. We have a rookie guide that's comprehensive, in-depth. Like, I know there are a lot of home leagues that are still doing rookie drafts right now that wait till late in the preseason. And that is the ultimate cheat sheet for Dynasty rookie drafts. We put hundreds of hours of research into that. And you can get a free preview of it. You can go to CouchScouts.com/rookie-guide. And you can look at, I think our top 5 rankings maybe are up there, like in front of the paywall, and a few profiles as well. So if you click Jeremiah Love, Carnell Tate, Fernando Mendoza, we've got those profiles up as free samples. If you want to look and kind of see what type of value you would be getting, there are over 70 profiles in there. So if you see what the kind of comprehensive depth that we've got on the Jeremiah Love profile, for example, you can expect that for 70 plus players. So definitely check it out, CouchScouts.com, and join the Couch Scouts family. So with all that being said, I am going to share my next boom bust candidate, and I'm also going to the wide receiver position, and that is Rashee Rice. So I know people are really sour on him, and understandably so, right? Like, there's been so much drama, and every time you think you've got him back, you don't have him back. And, whether it's injuries, he's had health issues. There's obviously been the off the field boneheadedness. I'm not even going to call it boneheadedness. Evil things that he has done that warranted the discipline that he got. So, I also get if somebody is just like, I don't want him on my roster because I don't want to have to cheer for the dude. But Rashee Rice, 7.5 yards after catch per reception was the most in the NFL among receivers last year. Only a 4.3 average depth of target, so 4th lowest among qualifying wide receivers. In other words, he's getting a lot of dink and dunk stuff. He's not necessarily, we don't know if that's a product if he's not winning down the field or maybe the offensive line wasn't holding up long enough for Mahomes to throw it downfield. We know that teams like to put a big shell over the top for the Chiefs and not let them have those big plays. So there's a lot that goes into that. But this was very Deebo Samuel-esque usage for Rashee Rice in the games that he did play in, which wasn't a ton. He was great for fantasy. But is he a limited real-life player who could flame out quickly? Is he wearing out his welcome with the Chiefs? You know, is there more discipline coming down from the league? Is he even like mentally and physically in the right state of mind? Like he was literally in prison right after having a surgery on his knee. So it's like, is he able to rehab and do what he needs to do while he's in prison? And how is all that working? So there's a lot of risk with Rashee Rice, as there has been for a few years now. But it's easy to forget that the upside is like top 5 fantasy wide receiver. And he's still pretty young, and he's still tied to Patrick Mahomes. So, like, let's just say hypothetically that all this stuff is in the rearview mirror, and from here forward, he's healthy, young, on the field, has chemistry with Mahomes. They sign him long term, right? Like, there's upside that he could be super, like, he could be a value right now. I think of like there was a buy window at one point on Tyreek Hill when he was younger, and there was off the field stuff that, like I saw some leagues where Tyreek Hill got sold for cheap, and then he had like many, many, many more highly productive years after that. So there was a buy window where he would have been a real value, and that could be the case right now with Rashee Rice if you're willing to stomach that risk and just having somebody on your team that you may feel gross about cheering for. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, is he in the right mental and physical space to really like compete, especially early in the season? Every like training clip video that I see, it doesn't look like that's the case. I don't know if he's not trying. He's not in shape yet. His knee's not in the right place that it needs to be for him to be able to accelerate and cut the way he needs to on running routes out there. It just doesn't look like he's super interested, to be honest. Like all the clips, he looks very disinterested. This is probably the most volatile of all the picks on here. It's a really great call out.
I mean, it's like the layup pick. Like he's been that way.
Yeah.
He's been volatile for a long time. But I think one of the ways that you can get an edge in fantasy football is you look at these boom bust guys and you make a calculated risk, like in the guys that you believe in, that they're going to do the boom side of it. And you can buy guys at a discount because of that risk. Now, in this case, I don't think I'm going that route. I think gun to my head, maybe it's Rashee Rice putting the gun to my head, but I'm going on the bust side if I had to make a pick.
Yeah, same. I kind of snipped out the wackiness character issues for a couple of years now, and I had some rosters where I drafted him late just because I thought he was a really good late round dart throw, but I ended up trading every single share I had.
All right, so give me your third and final boom bust candidate, Rupert.
Going over to the running backs, David Montgomery, another older player like A.J. Brown. He's, I believe, 29 now. And he's had some really productive years, rushing over 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. The caveat, he's in a super high-powered offense.
He was.
Yes, he was with the Lions. Is he now? I don't think so. Unfortunately, CJ Stroud's really taken a step back. Granted, Woody Marks is not going to be taking any end zone runs, in my opinion. All those are going to go to Montgomery, but how often are they going to get down there? I don't think that Montgomery has the skill set to really be able to overcome a bad offense and still be a high-end running back asset for you. So I think it really does just depend on can even CJ Stroud just, carry part of the load and have Nico Collins take top off the defense and, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel kind of supporting, hopefully Tank Dell as well, as a supporting cast, and they can spread the ball around, make sure that they can't load up the box so that David Montgomery has some room to run because he needs it, frankly. And their offensive line needs to be able to block for him, which is another question mark I have with Houston. But I can totally see a scenario where just based off volume alone and a decent enough offense where he goes for 1,000 yards, 10, 11 touchdowns, and helps support a contender run.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see CJ Stroud kind of make a career resurgence and get back to what he looked like as a rookie, because I think he's a talented dude, and I've always liked CJ Stroud, but man, what is going on there? He just keeps getting worse, and the vibes out of camp have not been good this year either. I think I read one, and of course it's all hearsay from reporters or whatever, but at one point I saw somebody had commented that it was the worst practice they had ever seen from any player, or the most interceptions they'd ever seen in a practice from any player. It's that's not what you want to hear.
Especially going into your fourth year.
I know. It's and that was the issue. The interceptions was the issue in the playoffs last year. It was dude, you've got the best defense arguably in football. All you got to do is protect the ball, and you're just being careless with it over and over and over again. So I don't know if it's a mental thing. Clearly he can sling it, but anyway, yeah. And David Montgomery, I think people are way too sure that he's going to step in there and he's going to be the RB1 and he's going to produce. The only I think everybody just feels so confident that the only reason he didn't produce this past year was Gibbs. And that's a valid, certainly in the realm of possibilities that okay, he can still really play, but Gibbs was just so good that you couldn't get him off the field. And so that's why his role was reduced, and it's just that simple. But it could also be that Montgomery is 29 years old and he's taken a lot of touches in his career, and he started to slow down and he doesn't have the juice that he used to have, and the team didn't want to use him as much, right? He's always, to your point, he's always been a touchdown dependent player, but he was playing in an offense that was scoring a ton of touchdowns and would get down there in the 5-yard line and just keep handing it to him. And last year, though, he was completely unusable for fantasy. And now at 29 years old, we're just assuming that he's going to resurrect his career in Houston and be this dominant lead back. And, even to be an RB2 for fantasy, I think is not a given. I'll say that, to be a solid RB2, because he's going to be in a committee with Woody Marks. And he's not going to be getting a lot of receptions. I think Woody Marks will take some carries too, maybe not inside the 5-yard line, but I think he's going to take some carries. And honestly, if you told me that Woody Marks is better than Montgomery at this stage of their careers and that he's actually going to be the lead back, that wouldn't shock me. So yeah, I mean, if it goes the way I think it could, there's way more more bust potential, I think, than most people are really accounting for here from what I've seen. So I would predict bust on this one.
Yeah, same.
So I'm going to go for another guy that is also at the running back position that has arguably more upside than anybody we've talked about so far. And that is Travion Henderson, running back for the New England Patriots. Now, we loved Travion as a prospect. I love him as a person. He's a strong Christian. I think he's not just talking the talk. I think he walks the walk. He seems like a really godly dude. I'm a big Travion Henderson fan. Weirdly, pass protection has been his issue in the NFL so far, which we loved his pass protection in college, so I don't get that. But I think what we underrated maybe is just how good Ramondre Stevenson is, because towards the end of the year before Travion comes into the NFL, Ramondre was starting to lose some touches to Antonio Gibson, who is he even on an NFL roster now? And a part of that was because Ramondre was having a fumble issue, which he historically hasn't really had, I don't think, throughout his career, but he was having a little bit of a fumble issue, and so he was doghoused a little bit. And then they draft Travion, and you're like, oh, it's over for Ramondre. But I just think we called it too early that it was over for him, because he's a good running back. He's not just this annoying guy that's in Travion's way. He's a legitimately good NFL running back. He's got fantastic contact balance. He's got good speed for his size. He can catch passes. He's really good in pass protection. He would start, I think, on a lot of NFL rosters. And, he averaged 4.6 yards a carry. Henderson averaged 5.1. But, again, a lot of that is because Henderson's the more explosive. So he's going to break the big breakaway runs. Despite catching fewer passes, Stevenson had over 100 more receiving yards than Henderson, with a much better success rate. So, I don't think Stevenson is going away. There's already been a report coming out that it's going to be a 50-50 timeshare this year. Is Henderson talented enough to produce on a 50-50 timeshare? Absolutely. It may be a little bit volatile week to week, but he's exactly the type of player that could take 15 touches a game and make a fantasy career out of it. So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on Travion Henderson, but I think Stevenson could get more work than Henderson managers want him to get. So to me, if Henderson comes in, I think everybody's willing to forgive a rookie year where you're kind of waiting your turn. But most people are expecting that he's going to break out and be the lead back this year. And if that doesn't happen, I could see his value really taking a hit. Again, even with these young, talented studs, the Dynasty community is more reactionary than we care to admit. So I could see a world where, a couple rough weeks even out of the gate, and his value starts to plummet, and people start to panic, oh, is Travion not who we thought he was? On the flip side of that, he's so talented. If he took the lead back role, or if Ramondre got hurt or whatever, dude, if you gave this guy 20 touches a game, he would be an absolute monster for fantasy. And that offense is going to, opposite of what you said about the Texans, they are going to be in scoring range a lot, I think. So, that's going to be an interesting one for me to see how it plays out. But Travion feels like he could be a league winner, or he could be a player that managers are frustrated with. Man, it's year 2. I thought I wasn't going to have to still be patient for this long.
Yeah, I think that's a real key piece of advice there. Watch out for the Henderson owners that maybe freak out way too soon this year, and see if you can buy low and get a discount, because we both still believe in Henderson long term. It's just going to be a matter of time, in my opinion. It may not be this year. We may have to wait one more year for him to have that full breakout. But like you said, he can have 15 touches and still go for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? He just has that breakaway speed that, frankly, you can't really keep off the field for too long. So it's only a matter of time. And look for that buy window this year.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly the details of Ramondre's contract. I want to say that before they drafted Travion, they had signed Stevenson to a 3-year deal. So I think that after this season, they have Ramondre for 1 more year, but maybe have an out in the contract. So I'm not positive, but the thing is, Henderson has enough size to be an every down back, and he's a really good pass catcher. The only reason he's not being used more is because Ramondre is also a really good pass catcher. So, yeah, I think Ramondre is going to continue to be annoying this year, assuming he's healthy. But like probably by next season, Henderson is a lead back. He is still a young stud. But yeah, I really like Henderson, and if I had to make a pick on the boom bust, I'm predicting boom for for Travion. I keep getting their names mixed up. For Travion Henderson, Ramondre may also be a value for a contending team. Like he may also be a guy that you could go get cheap, and he's going to give you some contender production. And he's got risk too. Like he's a guy that could be a really solid contending producer, or his role could be so diminished this year that you can't use him at all. So he's another, like they're both probably boom bust candidates, but Henderson more so.
Yeah. I just looked it up because I was also curious. So Stevenson signed a 4-year contract, so he signed through 2028 season.
2028. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll be annoying for longer than we think he'll be annoying.
Yeah. I looked up the guarantees. So in 2027, they can basically release him, only have to pay like 1.6 mil cap hit.
Interesting. So maybe we even in year 3 have Stevenson standing in the way of Henderson. That will be interesting to keep an eye on. See what they do there. But probably depends how this season goes. Like if this season Ramondre is still the lead back and still producing for them, then I'd be worried, does that trend continue into year 3? Whereas obviously if Henderson breaks out and takes the lead and is productive this year, then you're not worried about it. So
yeah, they could trade Stevenson as well. So
it's true. All right. Well, good stuff. Enjoyed being back on here podcasting with you, Rupert. We are going to go record our bonus show for members, and really excited about that. Tonight we are going to be talking about the NFC South and the AFC South, kind of giving a 10,000-foot preview of players you need to keep an eye on and that type of thing in those divisions. So if you're a Scout Potato member, make sure and check that out. And if you're not, jump on CouchScouts.com, and would love for you to consider joining us. You can also join our free community Discord at the link in our show notes. We've got 300 plus Dynasty fantasy football players in there just talking shop all the time. It's a really, really fun community. And we'd also appreciate if you'd leave us a rating and review on whatever podcast app you use. So with all that being said, we appreciate you listening and hope you have a blessed week. And we'll see you next week.